Yeah, hello. Hello friends, welcome to Data Pandit. Today I'm going to take up vectors in Abinitio. So let's discuss about the vectors, how vectors are different in Abinitio than different other programming language, and what different kinds of vector we have in Abinitio. So first of all, if you know, so vectors is a collection of, so one dimensional collection of homogeneous elements, and all the elements should be, of same type. They could be a compound data type also, like that could be a collection of different records or collection of vector itself. So vector within a vector, so nested vector also be supported. Okay. It's like same as arrays in C++ or dynamic arrays in Java, or probably arrays in Python. So in different programming language we have arrays, and similarly we have vectors in Ab initio. So Ab initio supports different kinds of vector, and would need to use those vectors depending upon our use cases. So first, let's talk about the different quickly, the different type of vectors Abinitio supports. First of all, it supports the fixed length vector, fixed size, the element number. It will be a fixed number of elements. So before, while declaring itself, you specify the length of the vector. That is the called a fixed length vector, and then there is a delimited vector, wherein we will have a the end of the vector element will be specified using the specific delimiter. Okay, whenever delimiter encounters, that means the element of vector has been, element of vector has been ended. So, then there is a length prefixed vector. So length prefixed vector, there will be a variable length. In delimited vector also we will have a variable length. Length prefixed vector also we will have variable length, and this is mostly common used and the recommended a vector type. uh, it should be used, if it is, any specific requirement is not there, so the length prefix vector can be used in most places. Okay, then there is a data sized vector. Okay, and then there is a self sized vector. So data sized vector is also popular. So um, it was very, it was also, recommended to use the length prefix vector in place of data sized if possible, and in self sized vector also avoided in most of the cases. The self sized vector is mostly, used when, that is, we are declaring any vectors and we are using, the local to the any transform function. We cannot pass from one component to another. It cannot be advisable to use self-sized vector whenever, on the flow, data flow, whenever the records passes through one component to another. In those scenarios, we would, avoid those uses of self-sized vector. So most used vector is length prefix vector. The data size vector also can be used. And what are the different, some other attributes related to vector? Or vector element should be of the same type, that we know, and it could be a scalar data type. I mean the base data type like integer or decimal or string, or it could be a collection of compound data type. That means maybe a collection of records, or maybe a collection of vectors as well, in case of nested vectors, vector within a vector. And there will be a length specified for each and every, vectors. So there will be length attribute to it. So, and so what is the length of the vector is the number of elements it holds. And finally, it's a dense collection. So there will be indexing of elements from 0 to length minus 1. So if we have a vector of length 10, then there will be a index of elements will be starting from 0th index to the ninth index. And the one more concept is vectors does not support the null elements. So you have to have some values for each and every element within it. Okay. So let's talk about, let's go ahead and check what are available in different type of vectors. So let's talk about fixed length first. Fixed length. Okay. So if I have to declare, the fixed length vector, let me declare one of the vector and we can discuss further on that. So this is let integer 2, 3. So fixed length vector. Okay. So this is my fixed length vector. So it will have, you know, three elements. So this number within square bracket is fixed with the length, length of the vector, and this is the data type which will be placed in this vector. So let's declare one more. We were talking about the nested vectors, right? So let's have one declaration for nested vectors. Um, Maybe vector 1234 and some 56. Yeah. So, so this vector. So this is the example of first let integer 2, 3. So these are three elements of integer type. Okay. This is the example of first declaration. So let's have a declaration of nested vector. Let integer 2, integer 2, maybe we'll have 7 elements in each and the 3. Okay. So this vector is, let's call it a nested vector. Okay. This vector will have vector within vector. Okay. Three vectors. Let me declare it. So each vector will have 7 elements. Let me say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 7. Okay. 7 each. So maybe I can declare it vector. Okay. Let me modify it a little bit. So this you call as a nested vector. Okay. G1, none, okay. And let me go to the next line so that you can view easily. And we have another one. So maybe I can say 2, 42 and 32, 22 and 12. So this is our vector having vector within a vector. So, we're just talking about the fixed length vector. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about kind of compound vector. So let's take an example of compound type of vector. I'm taking the string elements quickly. So if you have any doubt, you can ask questions in the comment section. I would reply. Let's a simple example where whichever we take right in all day to day. scenarios. So we'll have name, employee ID, decimals thing. Okay, and we call it as a salary. So this is, let me take only two elements just for you know just for example, and I will call it as a my vector. Okay, my vector, and if I have two, I have declared it. So this vector is a fixed length vector having two elements of a record type, and that record type would contain name, employee, and salary. Let's see if I have to assign the values to this vector. Let's say using constructor. We have different ways to assign values to the vector. One of those is using constructor, vector constructor. So I will assign the values using the vector constructor here. Okay. So let me assign it. Let me, or probably what I would do is I'm just closing it here, and then in the next new line, or probably I could keep here as well. Okay. Then I will have a vector. Then there would be two records. Okay. So two records, how we specify? Record name. Let's say name is maybe Arti, or probably I would take the employee ID, EMPID as EID 43 probably. I'm just taking salary. I'm just taking at some number. I'm not specifying the currency. I'm not specifying the frequency of the salary. So I would can take any number. No offense. Okay. And then there is a record name is, let me take above, and employee ID is, let me take in sequence, EID is 44, both joined on the same date, maybe, and the cell is a little bit difference, maybe 5. Okay. Now, so what happened here is when we declare like this, so this fixed length vector is assigned with two record type elements. Okay. So if I want to, you know, so this is the vector assignment using constructor. So this is the constructor. So as many as element we can specify, because we have two, and the length is a fixed length. If it is not a fixed length, we could assign many more elements. Okay. And there is another way of assignment for the vectors. That one is allocate with defaults. So this is a function, inbuilt function of Abinitio, wherein we have assignment of we can assign the vector using the allocate with default. So I'll just allocate with the defaults. Okay. So I'll just declare one fixed size vector, and I have allocated allocate with default. So this will be a default allocation. So default allocation, if you print this back one, so what will be printing is vector 0. So it is a two elements, so vector 0, 0 will be printed. Okay. So this is one way or two second way of assignment. Okay. So normally we do not use this fixed length. Okay. Any use one of the use cases which I could remember is like if we have a manipulation of you know monthly manipulation of, we have a you know Within a year, we have 12 months, right? So if we have to create a vector of 12 months for all the records coming in our use case, that time we could create a, an element, vector of, 12 elements. So in these specific use cases, we can use. Second type of is delimited. So mostly we don't use it, but there are. So the one use case I could remember for delimited is we get the records. So let's say I am getting the record or something like Jaipur, Pune, Mumbai, then I'm getting records in a sequence. There is nothing. Uh, I'm just writing and let's try to understand. You know uh, what is called as Senai, okay? And so we are getting the stream of records or okay. So in that case, it's difficult. So and we have asked that and whenever end comes, then it should be understood that this record has ended, okay, or the vector has ended, vector element has ended. So we can declare this stream of records stream, and we can say that delimiter is and and is the and is the delimiter for it, okay. So or let okay delimited back. So so because all these are string and ended by comma, and finally there is an end. Whenever we go to the end, then there is this record has been ended. Then again this record should come as a vector. If I specify del vec 0, then I should get these many things, okay. Okay, and then the second del vec 2 is this one, okay. So if so depending upon there are use cases or there are records from telecommunication use cases, or the stream of records are coming in and the packet has ended, so this they indicate that packet has ended. So packet end should be considered as a vector element has ended. Okay, let's also discuss about how this can be default assignments for delimited type. Let me declare one, maybe what I do, where I have a delimiter as delimiter as, let's say I have a delimiter as dollar dollar, okay, dollar in continuation, home values I'm getting, okay. So let's allocate with default, okay. So good thing I'm getting auto completion. So good. So so in this case also, if I have to see the, if I print the arm values now, so what would happen is it will print the and because no record is within this, so it will print and it will print the delimiter and uh, delimiter and the delimiter of the vector element and nothing, end of the decimal, end of the first term value. So there is nothing, so it won't be printing anything. Okay, then third, so the delimited vectors are used, but depending upon the specific use case, whenever. So it we will decide. We don't use from ourselves this delimited. So if we were to use, so we will see the data and to read those data. Uh, we we will we will apply the delimited vectors. So then again we have a length prefixed. So how we declare length prefixed vector is, So length prefixed vector, so length will be prefixed. So there will be a certain range of the length. Okay. So let's say I will have, I have declared one string element as a string, and I'm taking decimal to as length. Okay. My vector, I'm giving name as my vector. So what is this? So this is, so decimal 2 is the length prefix. So it can contain elements from 0 to 99 elements, up to the 99 elements. So if our requirement or growth is till 99 elements, then we can declare it a length prefix vector. If our length grows, then we can, it can grow to the triple 99. Okay. So this is very flexible, vector type. So any use cases, or it can support any use cases because it gives the range of the length, and it can support every type. So in that sense, it has it has a certain flexibility. Okay. So if we were to assign this this vector, let me give another, let me take, so maybe I have an integer 2. Okay. So this is my length prefixed, length prefix integer 2, and let's say lp length prefix vector. I must allocate with default. Okay. So what is going to happen now? So the 00 will be displayed if I want to print the LPV. Okay. Um, Now, the fourth type of vector we'll see, data sized vector. Okay. Uh, so data sized vector. So, okay. Data sized vector is this, the length part will be declared, will be declared within a record type, or it could probably be declared as part of program and somewhere else. So how we declare this record type is record, and let's just, I'm taking string first element. Okay. Let's say I'm taking department, and I'm taking a decimal. Okay. Let me take this one is number of DPTS. Okay. And by default I'm taking 2. Okay. And then there is another record within that, and there is a string, and let's sub dpt name. Okay. Within department we have a sub department, let's say. So my record becomes, let's say, then there is a, let's see, we have a string of the location of the sub department. Okay. And I'm ending this, and this is the length prefix I have to specify here, and then I'm declaring my department details, let's say. So I'm ending the and rack. So this is data sized vector. Okay. So in the record itself we are declaring number of steps. So this length prefix is declared within this vector, or it could probably come from other places as well, and reference. So if I were to assign this using the constructor, I said vector construct, so I could go ahead and assign this. Let's say department is HR, and let me take number of departments. Okay. to DPT details is I need to go to the next, let's say next, go to the next line, and I have vector of 2, and so now I need to give the record, okay, sorry, vector of record, vector of record, sub department name, let me sub department name, and the values could be probably recruitment, RCRUIT recruit, and what else, location could be probably by this is one element is finished. Now I need to make the second element similarly would be of record type, then sub department type is culture, so probably sports or whichever way, and the location would be below. Okay, so what we have done is, and we have to close the record. So this is how we this is how we use the constructor to assign the values for the data size vector. So data size vector and length prefixed vector can be used interchangeably. So let's take an example. So let this is length prefixed vector. Okay. Sorry. First, I will data sized vector. Let me see that data sized vector and take So let if I have to declare it as decimal, I'm taking very small example how we can use these vector interchangeably in few instances. Okay, LESL, let's say, and then there is a string. Okay, and I would take it because the this declaration is within the just before the, let me give name is okay. So because the length prefix is within that record, so, and let's say length prefix vector of similar kind. So we have a let, this is also kind of let record. Okay, so let string and decimal 2. Okay, and AI namespace. Okay, so what is the difference between two? This also comma within record. Okay, sorry, this should not be like this. So this, so what is the difference? Alias is of decimal type 2, and then I'm referencing it here and making a namespace. See here also decimal 2. If I can refer alias here, then it becomes the data size vector. So in certain cases they are used interchangeably, but it's recommended to use the length prefixed vector. Okay. Then we have self-sized vector. So the fifth type is self-sized vector. Self-sized vector. Now self-sized, okay. So there won't be any prefix for size as such. So let's declare it. let some decimal, okay, maybe I will decimal 6 of 2, and I will name it as a salaries, or let's say, okay, and that will be a vector of 230.00, yeah, it will contain, or 450.00. I can have any number of elements because we are not specifying any size as such. In terms of memory allocation, it will be, overhead. So memory will be allocated, more memories. Therefore, we avoid, we have, because whenever we declare anything, it has to allocate some memory. Okay, and so there are, so this is, not used in, mostly it's not used vector actually. So only place which where we use in transform functions, and we use within that or any program and function, but we don't pass this to the flow, you know, as a data set. We don't, specify it in as a data set. So declare within the transform function. We use it, we manipulate it, and we leave it. Okay, and so the assignment of vectors, right? How the vector assignments happens. So we have, you know, there are three types we can, assign the values to the vector. One is constructor, we already discussed. Those, then again there is an allocate with default. There is a function comes with it, and third is for loops. Loop expression, for loop or while loop. Whichever loop you want to use with vectors. Okay, loop expression for allocation, uh, vector assignment or allocation, or what you call as assignments. So we'll quickly check one or two way how we, use the um, so for loop. So let me take, any vector element. It's vector example of, let's say, 100 elements, and this is called my vector again, and I have to, init vector initialization, and I need to pass the 100. Okay, so init I have to, init is a function. You just call, this is a vector of a fixed size vector of, 100 elements. So let's declare the out equal to init vector. Init vector will be passed as n is the number has come 100, then I would begin. That's how we specify in the, what will happen is, let's, so what I will do is out, I'll do the for loop. I is less than n, it will go to the n minus 1 I, yeah, n, and what I will assign is, so what I will assign is so if I have vec, vec example, or maybe I have vec example something type. It's a type element actually, type. So type vec example is like, I have have some record. Let me take little complex example here so that we can easily understand decimal. Whenever, things comes to us. So string, then we have a So what I did is I have created a record which has two elements. So that the 100 elements of that vector I have declared, and I want to assign the values for all the 100 elements of the vector. So what I can do is, so num would be, let's say, I first, for first element will be 0, so I'm just taking as 1, and the second element is name I'm going to take as empty. If I have any other vector I have, then I can assign it empty, or let's say none as of now. Okay. So what we have done is, we just use the for loop. So what will happen is, we have declared 100. So it will go 100. 100 will be passed to n, and this for loop will iterate through 0 to 99, and the record will be from 1 to 99 plus 1 is 100. So the myvec will be having 100 elements, and each element will have num as 1, 2, 3 up till 9, up to 100, and all the name element will be null. So if we have to assign the name from a specific, maybe I have a vector here, which has names. Then what I can do is, I can do that vector local, and I, and let's say it has some different properties, maybe name. Okay. So likewise, I can look through the elements. So I think I have a few more things to discuss in vectors. So I will try to complete the vector session today, but I think there are other things in vectors, different functions in vectors, and other complex things. So let's see. I mean, wherever we, where all we use, vectors. So mostly they are used in normalize function. What we do in normalize function is normalize component we have. So normalize component is used to generate, many record from one record. So let's say we have a vector of, 10 elements, and if need to create the different records from that vectors. In that case, I think in normalize we can use vectors, and other one is a roll up, so where we generate the vector. So within a T group, if we have to create the vector, then we can use the vector function and create the vector, and we can output that particular generated vector within a roll-up function, and other place is redefined format. If we were to translate the record type, which has a different types within that record vector type. If you want to separate out each 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 element of it, let's say we have vector of string, and vector of string, decimal, and integers, and we want to collect all the three values in different types. So in that case, and vice versa also can be used in so with that, I think vector session first is I'm going to end today. So probably I will take the second session of vector in following session. Thank you so much.